Ambassador Alan Carter straightened his blue uniform as he entered the massive council chambers on Nexus Station. His heart beat faster, not from the thin air that most alien species preferred, but from what he had to say today. 5 years after Earth joined the galactic community, humans were still seen as newcomers, still trying to prove their worth. The chamber rose in tiers, with seats for 27 different alien species. Some looked almost human, while others were completely different. From the crystalline Morax to the gaseous Vril who floated in special containment fields. All of them had been traveling among the stars for thousands of years before humans built their first spaceship. The Council recognizes Ambassador Carter of Earth, announced High Prelate Zanvor, the leader of the ancient Vordethi. His gray skin and 4 eyes gave him a look of constant judgment. The Vordethi had been spacefaring for over 50,000 years and never let anyone forget it. Carter stepped to the speaking platform. Honored members of the Council, I bring urgent news. Our long-range sensors have detected a spatial rift moving toward the Orion Spur. Our scientists predict it will cause major destruction in at least 5 star systems, including 3 human colonies and 2 alien worlds. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared, showing the path of the anomaly. We need to begin evacuations immediately and pool our resources to find a way to stop this threat. A low murmur filled the chamber, not of concern, but of amusement. Zanvor raised a hand for quiet. Ambassador Carter, your concern is noted. However, spatial anomalies are common in our galaxy. They come and go. The Council has observed thousands of such events over the millennia. But our data shows, Carter began. Your data comes from human instruments, designed with human understanding, interrupted the Seleni representative, her tentacles waving dismissively. Which is, forgive me, quite limited. The Borkian ambassador clicked his mandibles. Humans always see danger everywhere. It is your evolutionary flaw. You lived on a planet with many predators, so you learned to fear shadows. This is not a shadow, said Dr. Lisa Reeves, standing up from behind Carter. She was Earth's top expert on space anomalies. Our models predict the rift will grow as it travels. By the time it reaches inhabited space, it could tear planets apart. The council chamber filled with the alien equivalent of laughter. And now we see another human trait, said Ambassador Kroon of the Palxis. You always think the worst will happen. You prepare for disasters that never come. In the civilized galaxy, we call this cowardice. Carter felt his face grow hot. Preparing for danger is not cowardice, it's responsibility. Perhaps among humans, Zanvor said with a small bow that somehow felt insulting. But the rest of us have evolved beyond such primitive fear responses. The Council will not authorize emergency measures based on human anxiety. A formal vote was called. The result was no surprise. 24 species voted against taking action. Only the humans and 2 newer council races voted in favor. The motion is denied, Zanvor announced. This council will not spread panic based on unproven theories. We will continue to monitor the situation, of course. As the session ended, alien representatives moved past the human delegation, some offering looks of pity, others not hiding their sense of superiority. They're making a terrible mistake, Dr. Reeves whispered to Carter as they walked back to their ship. Carter nodded grimly. Then we'll have to decide what Earth does on its own. He looked back at the council chamber one last time. The aliens thought humans were fearful and primitive. Maybe they were right about one thing. Humans did fear the worst. But that fear had kept humanity alive through ice ages, plagues, and all the dangers of Earth. And now it might have to save parts of the galaxy, whether the galaxy wanted saving or not. The U.S. Horizon, Earth's diplomatic vessel, hummed quietly as it drifted in space near Nexus Station. Inside the ship's main conference room, Ambassador Carter pounded his fist on the table. They won't listen. They think we're just being fearful humans again, he said to his team. Dr. Lisa Reeves tapped on her datapad, and a 3D image of the spatial rift appeared above the table. Unlike the simple version she had shown the council, This one included all their data. The anomaly glowed an angry red, its path cutting through several star systems. "The Council is wrong," she said. "My calculations show the rift is growing faster than we first thought. It will hit the outer planets of the Tellus system in 3 weeks, not 4. Captain John Mitchell, the military officer assigned to the diplomatic team, leaned forward. He was a tall man with a serious face and 20 years of space service. "How certain are you about this, Doctor?" he asked. "97% certain," Reeves answered without hesitation. "The rift is feeding on gravitational energy as it moves. The more star systems it passes, the stronger it gets." Communication Officer Samantha Wells spoke up next. She was younger than the others, with quick eyes that missed nothing. "3 of our colony worlds are in its path," she said. "New Frontier has almost 50,000 people. The other 2 are smaller but still have thousands of settlers. And there are 2 alien worlds too," added Carter. "Tellus IV and Mura Prime." The room fell silent as everyone studied the red path of destruction on the map. "The Council should be organizing evacuations right now," Mitchell said finally. "Every day we wait puts more lives at risk." Carter sighed. "They think we're overreacting, using words like primitive fear response and evolutionary immaturity." "So what do we do?" asked Wells. "Just wait for them to realize we're right when planets start breaking apart." Dr. Reeves zoomed in on part of the map. "There's something else I didn't tell the Council." She pointed to a small device floating next to her data model. "Earth Science Division has been working on a graviton beam projector. In theory, it could stabilize the rift, maybe even close it." "In theory?" Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "It's never been tested at this scale," Reeves admitted. "The Council would call it crude and unreliable. They've had gravity manipulation for centuries. But their technology isn't designed for this kind of emergency use." Carter walked to the ship's viewport and looked out at the stars. He thought of the colonies in danger, of the alien worlds that would suffer because their leaders were too proud to listen. "If we wait for the Council to act, people will die," he said quietly. "What are you suggesting, sir?" asked Mitchell. Carter turned back to face his team. "I'm suggesting we act on our own. We send warnings to our colonies. We prepare for evacuations. And we bring Dr. Reeves' graviton beam technology to test it." "The Council will be furious," warned Wells. "We could lose our membership. Earth could face sanctions. And if we do nothing, we lose colonies and millions of lives." Carter countered. "I'd rather be called a coward again than watch people die when we could have helped." He looked at each person around the table. "I won't order any of you to join me. This could end careers." Mitchell stood first. "I've never been one to sit back when there's danger, sir." "My family is on New Frontier," said Wells. "I'm in." Dr. Reeves smiled slightly. "Someone needs to operate the graviton beam." Carter nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "Then it's decided. We'll call it Operation Guardian. Our first priority is to warn the colonies and begin quiet evacuations." "And the alien worlds in the path?" asked Wells. "We warn them too," said Carter firmly, "even if they ignore us like the Council did." As the meeting ended, Carter sent one final message to the Galactic Council, knowing what the answer would be. Within an hour, the reply came: a stern warning not to create unnecessary panic based on human fearfulness. Carter deleted the message and gave the order. The U.S. Horizon broke away from Nexus Station, setting course for New Frontier Colony. They were on their own now. The U.S. Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the colony world of New Frontier. The blue-green planet looked peaceful from orbit, its small cities visible as tiny lights on the night side. None of the 50,000 colonists knew about the danger coming their way. "Get me Governor Kelly Anderson," Ambassador Carter ordered as they established orbit. Minutes later, the colony's leader appeared on the main screen. She was a practical woman with short gray hair who had helped establish New Frontier 8 years earlier. "Ambassador Carter, this is unexpected," she said. We weren't told about any diplomatic visits. This isn't a diplomatic visit, Governor, Carter replied. We need to speak in private. It's urgent. Once secure communications were established, Dr. Reeves explained about the spatial rift and showed the governor their data. Anderson listened quietly, her face growing more serious with each passing minute. The Galactic Council doesn't believe this is a threat, she asked finally. They think we're overreacting, Carter said. Called it typical human fearfulness. Governor Anderson studied the data again. And you're certain about this? As certain as we can be, Reeves answered. The rift will reach your outer planets in less than 3 weeks. The governor was silent for a long moment. What do you need from us? Carter felt relief wash over him. At least someone was listening. We need to begin quiet preparations for evacuation, and we need your advanced science facilities to help Dr. Reeves refine her graviton beam technology. I can help with both, said Anderson. But I can't order a full evacuation without causing panic. People will want to know why. Tell them it's a safety drill, suggested Captain Mitchell. The first colonies on New Frontier never had proper emergency protocols tested. Anderson nodded. That might work for the initial stages. I'll have my team begin immediately. While Governor Anderson made arrangements on the planet, Carter contacted Earth Command. The conversation was much harder. Admiral Pete Rogers, head of Earth's Space Forces, was not happy. You've broken diplomatic protocol, Carter, the Admiral said, his face red with anger. The Council has already filed a formal protest. People will die if we do nothing, sir, Carter replied firmly. I'm asking for your support. The Admiral glared at him through the screen. Do you realize what you're risking? Earth's standing in the galactic community. Trade agreements. Technology exchanges. I do, sir. And I still believe it's the right call. After a long debate, Earth Command reluctantly agreed to send help. The science vessel U.S. Einstein, carrying the experimental graviton beam equipment, and 2 evacuation ships, the U.S. Sanctuary and U.S. Haven. Down on New Frontier, Dr. Reeves worked with lead engineer Doug Franklin, a quiet man with brilliant ideas. Together, they modified the graviton beam technology using the colony's advanced facilities. The main problem is power, Franklin explained as they worked. We need enough energy to affect a rift that size, but if we overload the system, it could create an even worse disaster, Reeves finished his thought. We need precise calculations. While they worked, Captain Mitchell sent warning messages to the alien worlds in danger. Tellus IV and Mira Prime. Both planets sent dismissive responses, much like the Council had done. They think we're just being fearful humans, Mitchell told Carter. Won't even look at our data. As if things weren't difficult enough, a new message arrived from the Galactic Council, a formal censure against Earth for irresponsible fearmongering, and threats of sanctions if they continued. Worse still, most human colonists on New Frontier didn't believe the warnings. They trusted the Council's assurances that humans were simply overreacting again. The evacuation drills were met with complaints and poor participation. Then, 7 days into their preparations, sensors detected the anomaly accelerating unexpectedly. It's feeding on the gravitational field of a neutron star it passed, Reeves explained, her face pale. It's growing faster than we predicted. Carter looked at the new data with a sinking feeling. How long do we have? 10 days, not 3 weeks, she answered. And we'll need to act even sooner to have any chance of stopping it. Carter called an emergency meeting with his team. We're running out of time. We need to move now, ready or not. The spatial rift arrived at the Tellus system ahead of all predictions. From the bridge of the U.S. Einstein, the human crew watched in stunned silence as the massive distortion in space tore into the outer moon of Tellus IV. My God, whispered Captain Mitchell as the moon began to break apart. Even from this distance, they could see massive chunks of rock being ripped away, pulled into the swirling energy of the rift. Dr. Reeves checked her instruments. The gravitational disruption is already affecting Tellus IV. They're experiencing massive tidal shifts, earthquakes, tsunamis. Ambassador Carter turned to Communication Officer Wells. Contact the Talisian authorities. Now. The large view screen flickered to life, showing a Talisian official. The alien had blue-gray skin and wide, frightened eyes. Behind him, others rushed back and forth in what was clearly an emergency center. "This is First Minister Krell of Telis IV," the alien said. "Who addresses us?" "Ambassador Alan Carter of Earth," Carter replied. "We sent warnings about this anomaly 2 weeks ago." The Talisian's face showed recognition, then shame. "The warnings that our council representative dismissed as human fearfulness. We see now the error of our judgment." On the screen behind the First Minister, they could see images of massive waves hitting Talisian cities and buildings collapsing from earthquakes. "We need help," Krell said simply. "The northern continent is already experiencing catastrophic damage." Carter didn't hesitate. "We have an evacuation ship, the U.S. Sanctuary, ready to assist. We can take your people from the most threatened areas." "Thank you," Krell replied, his voice thick with emotion. "We will provide landing coordinates." As Carter organized the rescue mission, Dr. Reeves approached him with a determined look. "We need to test the graviton beam," she said. "The moon is already lost, but we might be able to stabilize the part of the rift affecting it before it spreads further toward the planet." Carter looked at Captain Mitchell. "Your thoughts?" "It's risky," Mitchell admitted. "But if we wait until the rift hits New Frontier, it might be too late. This is our chance to see if the technology works." Carter nodded. "Do it." The U.S. Einstein moved carefully into position, staying at what Dr. Reeves calculated was a safe distance from the rift. Engineer Doug Franklin made final adjustments to the graviton beam projector, a large device attached to the ship's underside. "Power levels at maximum," Franklin reported, targeting the section of the rift near the moon's remnants. "Fire when ready," ordered Mitchell. The beam activated with a deep hum that vibrated through the entire ship. The blue-white stream of energy shot out toward the spatial rift. Where it hit, the swirling chaos of the rift seemed to slow, its violent movement becoming more orderly. "It's working," Reeves exclaimed, watching her instruments. "The gravitational disruption is decreasing by 30% in the targeted area." For 10 minutes, they maintained the beam before Franklin warned of overheating systems. As they powered down, everyone watched the results. The section of the rift they had targeted was noticeably smaller and more stable. "It's not enough to stop it completely," Reeves said. "But we've proven the theory works. With more power and better targeting, we might be able to close it." News of the partial success spread quickly. On Telis IV, more people agreed to evacuation when they heard there might be a way to fight the rift. The U.S. Sanctuary began transporting thousands of Talisians from the most damaged regions. Then a message arrived from Mura Prime, the other alien world in the rift's path. Having seen what happened to Telis IV, they were now desperately requesting human assistance. As the fleet prepared to split its efforts between evacuation and refining the graviton beam approach, another message arrived, this one from the Galactic Council. "They're sending an observation vessel," Wells reported, reading the message. "Not to help, but to document the situation and assess human actions." Carter's face hardened. "They still don't believe us, even after seeing Telis IV." "No," said Mitchell. "They believe us now. They're just coming to watch us fail." "Then we'll have to make sure we don't," Carter replied, looking at the view screen where the wounded planet Telis IV slowly turned, its oceans still churning from the gravitational disruption. "The next target is New Frontier, and we'll be ready." New Frontier's blue skies were filled with ships, some taking colonists to safety, others bringing equipment for the graviton beam project. After seeing what happened to Telis IV, most colonists no longer thought the evacuations were just drills. "We've only managed to evacuate 60% of the population," Governor Anderson reported to Ambassador Carter. "The rest either refuse to leave or are in areas too remote to reach quickly. Carter nodded grimly. We're running out of time. The rift will reach New Frontier's outer atmosphere in less than 3 hours. Dr. Reeves and Engineer Franklin had worked non-stop to improve the graviton beam technology after the partial success at Tellus IV. 3 projectors now sat ready, one each on the U.S. Einstein, U.S. Sanctuary, and U.S. Haven. We've boosted the power output by 40%, Franklin explained, and Dr. Reeves developed a new targeting algorithm that should create a more stable field. Should? Asked Captain Mitchell. Reeves looked tired but determined. It's still experimental technology, Captain, but our models show a 70% chance of success if we can hit the rift with all 3 beams simultaneously. Better odds than doing nothing, Mitchell replied. A new ship appeared in orbit, sleek and elegant, with the markings of the Galactic Council. From it came a shuttle carrying 5 senior council representatives, including High Prelate Zanvor himself. They met in New Frontier's government building. The council aliens looked around with curiosity at the human colony, some seemingly surprised by how advanced it appeared. You were warned not to interfere, Zanvor said without greeting. The council has sent us to observe and document your actions. To watch us fail, you mean? Carter replied coldly. Zanvor's 4 eyes blinked. We are here to ensure that human recklessness does not make this natural phenomenon worse. Natural phenomenon. Governor Anderson stepped forward, anger in her voice. Have you seen what happened to Tellus IV? Thousands dead, cities destroyed. Regrettable, said another council member, a Xilani whose tentacles moved nervously. But the cosmos has its own order. Species come and go. Planets live and die. Not if we can help it, Carter said firmly. We're deploying the graviton beam technology whether you approve or not. We cannot stop you, Zanvor admitted. But when this fails, Earth will face consequences for its defiance. A technician rushed into the room. Ambassador, the rift is accelerating again. It's reached the outer atmosphere. Outside, the sky began to darken as the spatial rift approached. The air itself seemed to vibrate, and loose objects started to shake as gravitational forces became unstable. Get to your ships, Carter ordered his team. It's time. The 3 human vessels moved into position around New Frontier, each carrying a graviton beam projector. The council representatives watched from their shuttle, safely distanced from the planet. All ships report ready, said Communication Officer Wells from her station on the U.S. Einstein. Carter looked at Dr. Reeves. This is your project, Doctor. Give the order. Reeves took a deep breath. Activate all graviton beams on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. 3 blue-white beams shot out from the ships, converging on the approaching rift. Where they met, the distorted space began to stabilize, the swirling chaos slowing. It's working, Franklin shouted, watching the readings. The rift is responding. Then suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. Energy pattern shift detected. A technician called out. The rift is adapting to the graviton frequency. The beam emitters began to glow red-hot. We're overloading, Franklin warned. The resonance is wrong. Reeves frantically checked her data. We need to adjust the frequency, but we can't do it remotely. Someone needs to manually recalibrate the primary emitter. Where? Asked Mitchell. On the Einstein, Reeves replied. But they'd have to go into the projection chamber. The radiation levels there are dangerous. Mitchell made a quick decision. Move the Einstein closer to the rift. We'll get a stronger effect even with the overload. That's extremely risky, Captain, Wells protested. The ship could be torn apart. We have no choice, Mitchell said. Engineer Franklin, come with me to the projection chamber. We're going to fix this by hand. As the U.S. Einstein moved dangerously close to the spatial rift, the council observers watched in stunned silence. One whispered to Zanvor, "These humans, they're going to kill themselves." Zanvor didn't reply. For the first time since meeting humans, he felt something unexpected: respect. The U.S. Einstein shuddered as it moved closer to the spatial rift. Through the viewports, crew members could see space itself twisting and stretching unnaturally. Warning alarms sounded throughout the ship. Hull integrity at 60%, reported a technician. Gravitational stresses increasing. Inside the projection chamber, Captain Mitchell and Engineer Franklin worked frantically. The room glowed with dangerous levels of radiation, and they wore protective suits that wouldn't protect them for long. The primary emitter is there. Franklin pointed to a large cylinder pulsing with blue energy. We need to adjust the frequency to match the rift's new pattern. Mitchell nodded. How long do we have in these suits? 20 minutes. Maybe less, Franklin said grimly. Let's make it count. On the planet below, Ambassador Carter and Dr. Reeves monitored the situation from New Frontier's control center. The council observers stood nearby, watching silently. The Einstein is taking heavy damage, Reeves reported, her voice tight with worry. Mitchell and Franklin are attempting the recalibration now. One of the council aliens, a Borkian, clicked his mandibles nervously. These humans are sacrificing themselves. Why would they take such a risk? Because that's what we do, answered Governor Anderson. When others are in danger, we act. Back on the Einstein, Franklin's hands moved quickly over the emitter controls. Sweat poured down his face inside his helmet as radiation alarms beeped faster. Almost there, he said. The frequency needs to pulse, not remain constant. The rift is adaptive. Mitchell held the main power coupling steady as Franklin made the adjustments. Hurry, he urged. The ship won't take much more of this. With a final twist of a control rod, Franklin stepped back. That's it. New frequency pattern established. Bridge, this is Captain Mitchell, he called through his communicator. Activate all beams on the new frequency. Now. The 3 graviton beams flickered, then blazed brighter than before. Where they met at the heart of the rift, something remarkable happened. The chaotic energy began to fold in on itself, the spatial distortion shrinking rapidly. It's working, Reeves shouted, watching the data pour in. The rift is collapsing. The beams continued to push inward, forcing the rift to contract. As it shrank, its destructive energy diminished. In less than 5 minutes, what had been a massive spatial tear threatening to destroy New Frontier was reduced to a small, stable anomaly. All ships, cease graviton projection, Carter ordered. Status report. The rift has been reduced by 95%, Reeves confirmed. Its energy signature is stable. New Frontier is safe. A cheer went up from the control room. Even some of the council observers seemed relieved. On the Einstein, Mitchell and Franklin staggered out of the projection chamber and were rushed to medical. Both had received radiation exposure but would recover. An hour later, the council observers formally requested a meeting with the human leadership. High Prelate Zanvor approached Ambassador Carter with a very different attitude than before. Ambassador, he said, his 4 eyes focused intently on Carter, the council would like to formally request the specifications for your graviton beam technology. There are other systems that may face similar threats. Carter couldn't hide his surprise. You want our crude and unreliable technology. Zanvor's skin flushed a deeper gray, the Vordathi equivalent of embarrassment. We were incorrect in our assessment of human capabilities and human courage. The news of the human success spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. Ships from previously dismissive species began arriving, seeking cooperation on defense against spatial anomalies. The U.S. Sanctuary continued evacuation efforts on Tellus IV, saving thousands more lives. The Tellisians publicly thanked the humans, calling them the guardians who acted when others would not. 3 days later, a message arrived from Earth Command. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session. Earth was being given a leading role in developing new response protocols for cosmic threats. It seems they don't think we're cowards anymore, Wells remarked as she delivered the news. Carter smiled. No, Now they're afraid we might be right about other things too. As he looked out at the stars, Carter thought about how quickly things had changed. The very trait that had made aliens mock humans, their tendency to prepare for the worst, had saved millions of lives. Perhaps being the galaxy's cowards wasn't such a bad role after all. 6 months after the spatial rift crisis, Ambassador Alan Carter stood before the full Galactic Council on Nexus Station. The chamber looked the same, with its rising tiers of seats for 27 species, but the atmosphere was completely different. No one was smirking or whispering jokes about humans now. Instead, they listened with full attention as Carter spoke. "Distinguished members of the Council," he began, "today marks the official launch of the Galactic Emergency Response Protocol. What began as a crisis has become an opportunity for all our species to work together in new ways." The chamber looked different in other ways too. Humans now sat on key emergency response committees. A new threat assessment division had been established with Dr. Lisa Reeves as its co-director, working alongside alien scientists who had once dismissed her theories. Carter continued, his voice clear and confident. "6 months ago, when we warned of the spatial rift, our concerns were called primitive fear responses and cowardly flight instincts. Today, I want to talk about what those human traits really are." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's long history of natural disasters and human responses to them. What you called our cowardice is actually preparedness. What you saw as primitive fear is really awareness of danger. Humans evolved on a planet with many threats: earthquakes, volcanoes, predators, storms. We learned early that those who prepare for the worst often survive, while those who ignore warnings perish. The council members listened without interruption. Even species that had abstained from the new protocols seemed interested. "Humans don't see preparing for disaster as cowardice," Carter explained. "We see it as wisdom. We don't call running from danger flight instinct. We call it common sense, and we don't wait until a threat is upon us to decide what to do about it." High Prelate Zanvor, who now worked closely with the humans on many projects, nodded in agreement. 6 months ago, such an acknowledgement would have been unthinkable. The new emergency response protocol incorporates the best of all our approaches, Carter concluded. The careful analysis of elder species, the advanced technology of the Exilani and Borkins, and yes, the human tendency to prepare for worst-case scenarios. Together, we are stronger than we are apart. The vote to adopt the new protocol passed with overwhelming support. Even the few species that abstained did so politely, without the dismissive attitudes of the past. After the session, Carter found himself alone with Zanvor in one of the station's observation lounges. Through the large viewport, they watched ships coming and going from Nexus Station. "You have changed the Council, Ambassador," Zanvor said. "In my 50,000 years, I have rarely seen such a shift in perspective." Carter smiled. "It wasn't just us. You had to be willing to change your minds." Zanvor's 4 eyes blinked thoughtfully. The Vordethi and other ancient species had grown comfortable. After millennia without major disasters, we began to see caution as unnecessary. We mistook our good fortune for wisdom. "And we mistook your experience for arrogance," Carter admitted. "We have much to learn from each other." Perhaps, Zanvor suggested, the galaxy needed the humans' particular brand of courage. The courage to act when others would not. The courage to be called cowards and still do what is right. Through the viewport, they could see a small fleet of ships departing the station, a mix of human and alien vessels working together. It was the first joint galactic emergency response team, heading to investigate a potential threat several sectors away. "They're not calling us cowards anymore," Carter observed. "No," agreed Zanvor. "Now they call you what you truly are, the Guardians." Carter watched the ships until they disappeared into faster-than-light travel. Humans had come to the galactic community as the youngest, most inexperienced species. They had been mocked and dismissed. Now they were respected partners, their primitive fear responses recognized as valuable foresight. Sometimes, Carter thought, The most courageous act was to acknowledge danger and face it, regardless of what others might think. And sometimes, those labeled as cowards turned out to be the bravest of all.